Hi, I'm Ed Parcaut, your host of Helping the Brave, and let's bring in our guest today. How you doing, ma'am? Miss Pritchett?
Hi, how you doing,
I'm
Ed?
doing good. Nice little talk beforehand. We had a little talk beforehand. We went live. We were talking about podcasting. Everybody's telling me I should put a course together, so I think I will eventually put a course together because people have the same questions. People want to know what mic to get, what camera to get, how should you do it, how often should you do it. The most important thing is consistency. So whatever you're going to do, if it's once a month, then be consistent at once a month. If it's once a week, the same time every week you're dropping it, be consistent. Once you're not consistent, you lose your listeners.
Okay.
And that's what I found. So I did another podcast called, and I still do, called Inner Edison, which is your greatest accomplishments come from your greatest defeats. It was a #1 in the world. I took off 6 months because I got tired of people not talking about their problem. Right? It's our greatest accomplishments come from our greatest defeats. So they weren't talking about their failures, and that's the whole purpose of it. And I got irritated, so I took 6 months off. Well, my download has not caught up to where it was back then. So you got to be careful. So just stay consistently in whatever that is. Because I see some podcasts who go, oh, we've been doing 275 episodes we're going to take 6 months off, blah, blah, blah. Don't do it. Go record 6 months worth of content and then go take 6 months off.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. And then the other thing that's really important is your internet speed. I've learned that drastically. So, a lot of people have cable modems, and the downloads are amazing, but the uploads are only 26 or 14, or depending on where you are. And other people use Wi-Fi, and you should always try to be direct connect back to your router, if possible, because it's just the speed wise. I'm on fiber because we just got it in our area, and I'm at 1 gig up, 1 gig down, which makes a huge difference for when I'm doing video. You're trying to upload video and stuff, and if you're on one of the slower ones, it takes an hour or two. If you're on what I have, it takes a few minutes. So there's just a lot of stuff that, you have to learn along the way. But anyway, enough about me and what I do.
You really should do a book. That's pretty good information.
And it's just the stuff I've learned over the last, I don't know, since 2018, the most important thing I learned in radio was talk to you. Talk to the person, that one person. Don't talk to listeners, because listeners go there. He's talking to that person over there, not me. And that's the same thing of podcasting. You want to talk to that one person. And that's all you should care about, is that one person. And smile. All right. For some reason I want to call you Zorina.
You can, or Z. My nickname is Z.
Z. All right. So what service were you in, and why did you pick it?
Oh, right. I was in the Army, and actually I picked it because my husband at the time, we had snuck and got married. We met in college, and so we were going to allow our parents to pay for it. But my nosy mom, God bless her soul, she went snooping around in my room and found our marriage license and told us, now that you guys are grown, you got to support yourself. And so we did for a while, and then we realized we ran out of money. So we decided to join the Army, get some education funds. And then also we thought it was a win-win because we can support our country as well. So that's how I ended up going into the Army.
And what did you do in the Army?
I was a 75 Bravo.
Which is, for most people who don't know that?
Personnel.
Okay.
I was the one you came in and helped with your personnel papers.
Gotcha. You probably haven't talked about this in so long, right? Yeah, so I mean, it's like, I haven't been in years, but it's nice to relive what we did to get us to where we are today, because a lot of stuff you learn in the military, we utilize in life still. I do myself personally. My attention to detail, which they teach you, I use constantly. The SOPs, standard operating procedures. I can write those for my companies where other people don't have a clue what I'm talking about. And I think it's really important, the things that we learn in the military, to utilize in our businesses to a certain point. Yeah.
I also think the structure, because I'm beginning to realize that I must have been misdiagnosed with, what is it, ADHD?
Right.
Because I tend to be all over the place, and I like, how did I get through the military like that? And I think it was because it was structured. I knew what was expected of me. I knew what I had to do. And so when you're being a civilian and you're in a non-structured type situation, you can wander off in your thoughts and things. And so I think the military did bring some very value into my life, and also contributed to how successful I was able to build a career.
Yeah, I totally agree. For most people, they cannot be unsupervised, meaning that when that it just doesn't work for them. You need some type of structure in life.
Mhm.
We go in the military, we that's all there is structure, and then you get out and you don't have that same structure. So some veterans are failing because of that. They need that same structure. So when you get out, you got to find your purpose again. You got to find certain things. So, did you go when you were in the service? Did you go to school while you're in the service, or did you go to school when you went out of the service? What did you do?
Actually, I want to, okay, this is funny. When my ex-husband and I went in the military, I got hurt in basic training. Yeah, girlfriend and I was on KP duty and we were dumping the trash can and she let her side slip. And so my hand got smashed. And so I finished basic training, finished AIT, went to my first duty station at Fort Polk, Louisiana, was
Oh,
assigned to
hold
infantry.
on. I the funny thing about that is I was stationed I did my AIT for physical therapy at Fort Sam Houston, Texas when I was in, and my first week I had to go train. It was in there. That's where I had to train for a week. So
Yeah, so I found out that when we went on the little getaway, I got pregnant because we had too much fun. And so since we were I was assigned to an infantry unit, we were going out a lot. And when I found out I was pregnant, I had to make a choice because I don't know if you know back then, Ed, in the 80s, you either had to have someone that would volunteer to take care of your child while you were away. And at that time, I wasn't comfortable with that. So my husband and I made a decision that I will get out and then I was finish my obligation in the reserves. And that's what I did. So I was able to go to a couple of stations, reserves down there. And then I started school and then we started moving around. So every time I got to a different location, I was enrolled. And then I finally finished after the divorce. I finally got my degree, but it worked out good because I had a wonderful career working at the VA for 30 plus years. So it
you
worked
worked
out
at the
great.
VA. Oh, don't. So how do we fix? I could have a whole conversation about how do we fix the VA.
Well,
Because let me preface that. People work there are really good people. All right. I'm not knocking the people. I just think the structure and the way it's set up is not, it's like the DMV, it's like certain things when government, the post office, they're
yeah,
run by government, right?
it's a little different. Yeah, we could have a show on that and explain. It's really different in that we have to think very quickly because we have so many claims and we only have so much time to process them because it's production driven. So, just briefly, I remember when I was a rating specialist and having to rate so many claims really quickly. I thought about Lucy when she was doing the candy and I couldn't keep up because it was just claims just kept coming. I felt like I could just eat these claims, but you always had to realize that that claim was an actual veteran. Because if you look at it just from a production perspective, you may find yourself cutting some veterans short. Not saying intentionally, but not looking at their claim thoroughly. And so that's why I feel like now that I'm retired from the VA, I started working with organizations to help veterans with their claims.
So if a veteran had a claim, say they got out and they had a 10% claim back in the early 90s, can they go back and get that adjusted?
Oh yeah, if you're that's why I want to do this post retirement because once you've been
Oh,
rated, it's not
you have
permanent.
another client then, by the way.
Yeah, it's not permanent. If your condition has worsened, you can always come back in. And so what I try to do, I sort of like prepare them, like tell them how to set their evidence up, how to communicate with the doctor, how to prepare for your compensation and pension exam because I want you to build a successful claim, especially if it's a legitimate claim. And a lot of times veterans don't know how to relate their symptoms. So I will write out the narrative so you kind of practice and you can go over it with the doctor because you don't have to say everything like verbatim out your brain. You could read from it or bring your spouse. So that's what I'm trying to do to give back to veterans to help them through the process because so many of them are paying thousands of dollars to these organizations to help them. And they really have a simple claim that all they have to do is submit it to the VA, let them adjudicate that, and that's it. But you pay them a percentage, and they knew you had a simple claim. So I'm trying to help in my area in Maryland, or whoever else, you know, like yourself, you call me and say, hey, I want you to help me and stuff like that. It doesn't really matter where you are. That's just my way of giving back to the veteran community.
Yeah, because you know, some of those companies irritate me, because I went to this one event and one guy was up on the stage of his company and they're clapping how much he's done and everything, but he's taking 20% of the check of the first check of the veterans to get them there. Right. And so I understand if someone doesn't know how to do it at all, but when I got out, the DAV helped me, and I got 10% just because I complained enough. But as I go forward in life, when my blood pressure back then is what they consider high, but back then they didn't consider it high. Does that ever come into play again?
Oh, well, yeah. So it doesn't matter.
I'm sorry. This is not supposed to be a show about VA.
I know. Sorry. I'm gonna make this.
It's your show. You tell me what you want to talk about. So
yeah, it really doesn't. I want to just say this to everyone. It doesn't matter how they evaluated back then, as long as you still have the disability, because the rating schedule is still in place. And so when we look at your symptoms, we look at what the rating schedule says. At 10%, you should show symptoms at this level. If we see one symptom that's going to the higher evaluation, by law, we have to bump you up to the higher evaluation. If we see that you in equipoise, meaning that there's evidence for and against, by law, we have to grant service connection. So there's things in place legally, things that we have to adhere to when evaluating veterans. So if you haven't been evaluated, you think your condition has worsened, hey, go back to the VA, see where that lies, make sure you got all your evidence, and don't be afraid to go to private doctors too, because sometimes they can help you a lot faster and meet your medical need compared to going to the VA at times.
So what you're saying is, but here I've looked at my rating. They didn't give me anything for high blood pressure, because back then everybody in the world thought high blood pressure was 10 point, you know, at the time, 10 points higher. Now they're like, no, it's here now. And it's been that way for 20 years, but it's, you know, I've been on high blood pressure. I mean, this is not a whole thing about me, but I've been on the medicine since pretty much 10 years after I got out.
Well, I will tell you with your case, just based on what you've shared with me, if you have factual evidence in your medical records that show you consistently had high readings, even if back then they didn't consider it high reading, but today those readings are indication that you were on the pathway of hypertension, I would suggest to you, if you're able to get a copy of your medical records, take that to a private doctor, let him or her look at it. And if they determine, yeah, looks like you were on your way to hypertension, then they can write you a medical opinion saying it is as least likely as not that my client or patient Ed Parcaut did have findings of hypertension. As long as they can justify it and there's medical treaties, you wouldn't have any problems. I had to do that myself, you guys. I went to several private doctors because VA kept denying me, and I knew it was there. And so I went to a private doctor, gave him a copy of my medical records, and he saw what I believe was there, and he wrote it up. And then the appeal, I won in my appeal.
How do you get your medical records?
I think it's the National Archive or something may have a copy of it. You know, if I'm wrong, please don't shoot me because it's been a while.
No, I just want to know because, you know, it's different in the 80s and 90s than it is now. Everything's electronic now. But back then, it's all paper.
Yeah, they probably have it if it wasn't in the situation where they got burned. There are some veterans' records got burned, and I forgot that time period. So.
71.
Yeah, so you should be okay. They should be able to find something.
The reason I know that because there's a veteran trying to get help. He was actually undercover in Vietnam with the Viet Cong, and they actually changed his age and everything and changed his name while he was undercover. And he lost his actual record, not him, but the VA, and he can't get services because they say they don't have access to his record.
Yeah.
Well, how do you get around something where they can't find your record?
It's
Because they
hard
have no record of him. Yeah.
It's hard unless he had private medical that showed
Back
something
then,
within a year of discharge. It's pretty much a lost case, to be honest. Those are
That's
very
too bad.
difficult case. But yeah. I have to tell you though, my experience with the VA and the military is what led me to what I'm doing now, the transition I'm doing now. Like so many other veterans, I always wanted to start a business, but life gets in the way. My disabilities, when I have flare-ups, even today, it's very difficult for me to try to get into working my business. And there was a day not too long ago, I really questioned, should I be in this space? Because it's just something on the last on one of my bucket lists that I wanted to do. And since I came up with this amazing game from a dream that I don't know if you read my bio, but I came up with this game Zomatic Shift from a dream in December of 21. And I found the game to be amazing because it's fast. You can play with your kids one round in less than 10 minutes. And I realized too, it helped kids who need a digital balance. And what I mean by digital balance mean they need to put down their phones, get off YouTube and do some family stuff, play with friends again, because I feel like COVID had robbed some of our kids of their social skills. And many of you probably don't know, but it's manifesting in school today. They're coming with behavior issues. They don't know how to get along. And so I wanted to do something before my disabilities got worse as I got older, because I am 61 years old. I'm not ashamed to say that. But I just feel like I want to advocate for them and get parents to realize how important it is for them to limit their children's access to digital to 1 to 2 hours, like the expert says. And so in coming into this space, the leadership, the courage, the resilience, the discipline that we learn from our military, and then also the analytical that I learned from the VA really does help me to do this. And so I really hope that veterans like myself who have disabilities, who want to be entrepreneurs, if there are organizations like in my area called Project Opportunity, where they really help veterans who want to be entrepreneurs, check out SCORE, small business. I say go for it. If you're able to have a product or service that you think that's going to solve a problem out there, don't let your disability stop you. Don't let it stop you from trying. Because for me, although it's a struggle, because Ed, I am also a caregiver. My brother had a stroke. And if you know any type of damage to the brain, it can be very irritating for them. And it can be irritating for you because they forget. He had damage to the left and the right side of his brain. So I'm trying to balance running my small business to help motivate parents to be very aware of the negative impact that digital can have, manage my disability, and then also take care of his life. But at the same time, I really want to, again, reiterate to our veterans, particularly the disabled veterans, as well as the whole veterans, do not let external things stop you from pursuing your goals, because we learned a lot in the military, even with my short period of time on active duty and doing the rest of my obligation with the reserve. I think that experience has really led me to the discipline that I had in working with the VA. And it also helped me to navigate through life, where I knew when to pick the battles and when to pull back. The confidence that you gain from being in the military. It's just a wonderful experience. And you can take that experience into the business world with you and be successful as how you define success. You know, we know that we want to make a profit. If it's business that's nonprofit, everybody want to make a profit. But you know what I'm learning, Ed? The first 3 years is your challenging years. And you may come up with a product that just go off the shelves like crazy, or a service, but that's not everyone, of course. But again, it has been slow, but I never feel like giving up. And I think that's the military part of me. That's the military part of me. I don't want to give up because I know what I'm fighting for. And it's just like fighting for our country and standing for the principles that we have. And we know the sacrifice that we're making. And so I feel that same energy. In fact, it gave me my life back, because as a caregiver, you can get caught up in taking care of them and not taking care of yourself. So working my business, Zochi, and trying to educate parents and offering them a game solution with Zomatic Shift has just really helped me to evolve as a person, and also motivates me to not only give back to parents, but still have the energy and the focus to help veterans.
Right. Well, it sounds like because you're taking care of your brother, you're running a business, you're also just somewhat, have your own things to deal with. You're helping veterans, and then you're also podcasting now.
I know. I know. I
So
like
it's a lot. I mean, you have to be organized to be able to do that. So.
Oh God. Didn't I say I got a touch of ADHD? I can be all over the place.
For me, I have to have a calendar, everything scheduled out, because I record probably 3 of these a week of this, 2 of another one of my podcasts, 1 of another one, and then 7 of another one each week. So
I do use a calendar. I try to put everything on the calendar, because if I do not, I experience anxiety really bad, because I feel like I'm overwhelmed and everything is out of whack, and I don't like that feeling. And then also, I like the structure, because when I took on my brother, you're actually balancing 2 lives. I manage his finances and his health care, then my finances and health care. And one day, in caregiving, if you are a caregiver, you have to be very mindful of what you're doing. And one day I accidentally put his medication in the same pocket with my vitamin. And I accidentally left one of his medications in my pocket, and I took it. And it was one of those medications that people with hypertension, where it drops your blood pressure down really fast. And I have normal blood pressure. And so I ended up going to the emergency room, and it was the VA doctor. When I explained to her how I made that mistake, it was her that told me, I understand what you're doing for your brother, but you have to take care of yourself first. And that's something I think we also sacrifice as veterans. We're so used to taking care of the mission, making sure everything else is done. And some of us do not know how to take care of ourselves, put ourselves first. And that near-death experience is what helped me to realize that I can't help my brother. I can't help the children if I don't start with me first. So I encourage you to have some self-love. Doesn't mean you're selfish, but take care of yourself first so you can be around for other people.
They say the same thing about parents. Parents sometimes put their kids before themselves, and then they're like, the people are saying, no, you got to take care of yourself, because if you're not here, who's going to take care of the kid? So,
well, just like on the airplane, remember you go on an airplane, they tell you put your mask on first, and then put your mask on the children, because you can't help them if you pass out. So It's common sense to that. And I think that's why a lot of people are angry. We experience anxiety because we're so worried about other things instead of worrying about how do we take care of ourselves. And so I believe that the creation of Zomatic Shift came to me at a time I needed it, because I felt like my brother was taking over my life. Everything was about him, and there was nothing for me. And so when I had that dream, it was like, aha, I like this. And when I tested it for over a year and a half with the children and saw how it worked with my own grands, and getting them to leave the digital alone and play, and then asking them what is it about that they like. And they all said the same. They like the fact that it's fast and it's movable, because the game constantly moved. And it regained a purpose in life, because I am retired. I did have a plan of what I wanted to do during retirement, but because of the commitment that I made to my brother, I haven't been able to fulfill everything that I want. So this gives me something to feel proud about, just like being a soldier, feeling good how you're taking care of our country, protecting our country. Even though some people are doing some things, you're like, man, did that what I stood up for? Some crazy stuff.
But that's
But
the freedom. That's the freedom. What we stood up
that's
for.
the freedom part. And so I just feel like right now I'm in a space of the entrepreneurial space, which is a good space. It's a challenging space. It's a space that allow you to grow. It's a space that you're giving back, just like you gave in the military. You're giving back to help solve a problem, and that gives me a good feeling every day to get up and say, you know what? No matter how I struggle with my disabilities, no matter how frustrated I find myself with my brother, I'm giving back because I'm trying to help the next generation of kids to maintain their social skills. And because this is what I feel like. How do we expect them to build communities if they're not building social skills to interact with each other? You don't just all of a sudden grow up and you just, wow, I got social skills. No, they're nurtured by their parents. They're developed during the school process. And so when those things are being not engaged because they're finding themselves on their screens all the time and that become their friends, we're going to have a problem in the future. And so we can circumvent that by encouraging our kids to be interactive with each other, to communicate better with each other, not fight and things like that, or bully each other.
Well, I mean, that's common because that's already there. I mean, this problem's already there. That bullying and everything else was around when we were kids. It's still there. Um, but you're right. They don't know how to communicate. They text each other while they're standing next to each other instead of talking to each other. And
Well,
that's
one thing is different though, Ed, is this. You and I know we had bullying, but if someone didn't like the dress I wore, I heard it at school. I didn't have to get on social media and everybody knew I wore it and took a picture of that dress. So it is a little bit different.
well, you're okay. Social media is there. It's the same for everybody. You're going to have haters all over it. I say embrace your haters. I've had more videos go viral embracing my haters than any other time of not embracing them.
I
They're
know.
just, yeah, they're just bullies who, they have what I used, and this is going to come off wrong, but they have text balls. They'll say something that they won't say to your face, but they'll say it on a text or they'll say it in social media, which that's wrong. But that's how people are. They just don't want the confrontation because what they say they want to get out there, but they don't want to have the, anything come back their way. And it's sad, but that's how that's been there for a while. Before they used to put a little piece of paper and then pass the paper around. Now they send it out on social media. All right. So where do people find your games at? Z?
Oh, I'm very blessed. Walmart was able to pick me up online, not in the store. I'm at Walmart. I was able to save my money and get my inventory. And so I went online in Walmart in October of last year. And so I'm still learning the retail market. That's another thing too. Anybody who's producing a product or service, do not think you have to get it perfect. There's no such thing, because you can have your test group and everyone said, oh, it's great product, right? But then when you go out to the masses, it may still be a great product. However, the more and more pool of people that access your product or service, they may give you some ideas of how to tweak it to make it much, much better. And then also too, just because someone says no to you does not mean you don't have a good product or service. That product or service just may not be the solution that they need. So don't be discouraged. Get it to a point where it's safe, it's marketable, put it out there, and then see what happens. Because all of us have bought products and we're like, how did this get to market? And they made $1 million off that crap. So, or you go to somebody's service, they promise you you're going to deliver you from whatever, and then you find out, oh, they didn't do that, and you paid all that money. That's just how business is. So if you're going in it with a good intentions to solve a problem and you feel confident in your product that you have, don't get discouraged. You might have to tweak it to make it better, and that's okay. But you won't know that until you move forward and put it out there.
Z, how do people find you?
Oh, at www.zochi.com. I have a website. Save some money for that as well. And it just tells my story, shows you images of the game, a video of how the game is played. And also, if you decide to support me, there's buttons that you can click that will take you right to where the games are located on Walmart site.
All right, great. Thanks so much for coming on the show today. I really
Thank
appreciate you being here.
Thank you. And again, I just want to tell people, please go for it. If you really want to be an entrepreneur, take those leadership skills that you learned from the military, as well as couple with your life skills, and take a risk on you and get all the help, the grants, whatever you need, family members. You can do this. Just give it a try. It is a different experience, but it's worth trying. It really is.
Are you on social media?
Not too much.
Okay.
I'm on Facebook. I'm still trying it. Guys. My anxiety kind of.
All right, so just go to the website again. What was the website? And please don't take this wrong, but you don't have to do www. You could just do.
Oh, okay, okay. That's what you can just say. Zochi. That's ZOCHEY.com. ZOCHEY.com.
That's right. That's all you got to say. Again, thank you so much for coming on and helping the brave. I really appreciate you giving the information out there, and thanks for what you're doing for us veterans. I appreciate
Thank you, Ed, for inviting me.
My pleasure.